All right. We are back. The A to Z Sports Big Orange podcast. I am Charlie Burris. That is not Zach Reagan, like usual. Zach is on vacation. He literally sent us a picture in the group text earlier today of himself next to a pool just to make us all jealous. Thanks a lot, Zach. But we are joined by another team member of A to Z Sports and also somebody who works with our great partner 1045 The Zone in Nashville. Lucas Panzica, what is up, man?
What's up, Charlie? What are we, under 60 days now until that
Oh,
Syracuse game? Just kind of inching closer and closer and closer. This is
I
a good
guess we
time
are.
to take vacation because then once you're back, it's like media days and then you're kind of rolling.
Yeah, you're getting right under the gun here. Got a couple weeks to media days in the middle of June or July. I guess tomorrow is July, which is the month before the month of college football. So yeah, closing in. It's going to be exciting. We're going to talk about football to round out this quick discussion. This is going to stand in for the podcast this week, even though it's going to be a little shorter than what Zach and I usually do. But we're going to get Lucas's thoughts on football. He had some interesting things to say in recent videos for the A to Z Sports Tennessee Volunteers YouTube channel. But we could lead things off with this baseball. We have to mention Tony Vitello right now in the transfer portal. This guy's a psycho. Like, he's just going and banging down every door he can, absolutely going haywire in the transfer portal. He gets Landon Mack, who a week ago, at least from what I had heard, I had listened around, is this pitcher from Rutgers. And from what I had seen and heard, this kid's going to LSU. Well, Tony Vitello, it comes out on social media. It looked like, at least according to, I think it was his sister's Instagram or something, Tony Vitello goes to this kid's house, makes a house call, and now Landon Mack is coming to the Volunteers. He also got a two-way player out of Rice that's coming. All of these transfers, also 20 pitchers transferring out. But regardless, this guy is just reloading. He's absolutely crazy. Now, Lucas, you did tell me ahead of time, baseball is not your specialty. Obviously, in Nashville, you got a lot more to cover than just the Vols. But obviously, you are a Tennessee guy all the same. I mean, Tony Vitello right now, even after a quote unquote down year, this dude's ridiculous. I'll just generally ask you, how are you feeling about Tennessee baseball right now and the current shape it's in?
I'm not even remotely worried about it. Like there was a lot of hand wringing over, like you said, what was it, like 7 pitchers alone that transferred out, and I wasn't even remotely worried about it.
This is pretty crazy, actually. So on the pitchers, almost all of these guys are guys you'll have never heard of. They were like, it's total, way down the list, guys. 20 pitchers now.
So technically, that's the number. 20 pitchers.
Technically, ones that matter. It's like.
Yeah. No, I mean, college baseball roster stuff is all over the place. Look, at no point should anybody be worried about Tony Vitello and the trajectory of this program. They have not given us a shred of anything to worry about at any point since Tony really got this thing rolling. Like you said, Landon Mack, freshman All-American, you flip him away from LSU. They're just going to reload going into next year. And there's not even a question to me that Tony is the best coach in his respective sport.
You flipped the mic off, whatever you did just then. Oh, Lucas, you flipped the. I don't think you can hear me. You flipped the mic off, really. Whatever you did, you like knocked it off, and knocked the mic off. This is live radio. If we can get it going, I won't restart the recording. Did we lose it? Hold on. I still can't hear you. Whatever you did that last time.
It's because it like
there we go.
It automatically muted me when I accidentally turned my mic off. Oh my god.
Well, I feel like we're good enough. Live radio stuff happens on this show all the time, so let's just roll it. Let's just do it.
A roaring start. All I was trying to say is Tony Vitello is the best head coach on Tennessee's campus for his respective sport, right? Like, it's not even remotely close. for what the standard is in the sport that he or she coaches on Tennessee's campus, Tony Vitello is elite of the elite of the elite in college baseball, right? I think even the baseball layman, the baseball expert would all agree on that. Rick Barnes, one of the active winningest coaches in all of college basketball, men's or women's, like I understand that. But for what Tony has done at the pinnacle of his sport, no Tennessee fan should at any point have any shred of worry about the direction of his program from a personnel standpoint, from a culture, mentality standpoint, whatever. They're good. And they're going to come right back around next year as contenders to get to Omaha.
It really is crazy what the guy's done. It's ridiculous. And the continued success. I'll actually ask you this because I've seen this on Twitter and different places, just fans talking. And I've seen some folks say, oh, well, I would give up baseball national championships and basketball Final Fours to have a national championship in football again. I would rather take, I don't know if they use these exact words, but it essentially means this, take the resources away from baseball and basketball just to give it to football. That's what we should really concentrate on is football. I can tell you, I could not be more opposite of that. Lean into your winners. Tony Vitello is the best guy you got. Let him absolutely dominate that sport. We just can't do Mike stuff right. Let him absolutely dominate that sport. Basketball, all the same. I want Rick to get to a Final Four so badly. I don't know. Do you agree or disagree with that sentiment?
I don't agree with it, but I see where people are coming from. Like I have a friend,
Sure.
I have a very close friend who I went to Tennessee with that has told me at every turn he roots for the Vols, the baseball team. Like when push comes to shove, obviously, like we're there watching the championship game last year, all those things. But he has made it very clear to me he would abolish the program in exchange for like 1 9-win season, like a 9-win season. Like he is all the way on that side of it. And there's a lot of Tennessee fans that are kind of like that. And I get the place that they're coming from. And you look around at other programs and other universities. You look at the University of Georgia, right? That I almost respect how little they care about any sport that's not football. Like to hire in men's basketball, for example, a fired retread of your arch rival Florida in Mike White, who has your program in an incredibly mediocre place, and just be so okay with that because of what football is at the University of Georgia and the resources you can put into it. I respect that, but I also agree with you. You lean into your winners. And the best baseball program in the country, in my opinion, in the history of college baseball, is LSU. There is room.
I hate that I agree.
Yes, it is the LSU Tigers, who are national champions, just like they were 2 years ago, sandwiching that Tennessee title. And LSU is right at the top of every discussion as contenders to win the SEC this year. And Garrett Nussmeier is a Heisman contender. Like, to say that you cannot do it across the board, is it more difficult? Yes. In the era of revenue sharing, is it even more difficult? Yes. But I do think it's a challenge that Danny White kind of relishes. And it's a challenge that I'm fascinated to see how he takes on. Danny White loves being an everything school. He loves it. And right now, Tennessee is as much of an everything school across the board as it has been since, I don't know, if we put a marker on it, like 07, right? When the Lady Vols are winning a championship and I don't even, baseball was kind of coming off of a College World Series in 05 and football was in the SEC championship game. Like, it might be even better than that, the point that they're out now. Probably is, because they actually got a championship out of it with baseball. So I love that this challenge that is presented to Danny White, and to see how he's going to attack it is going to be fascinating. But I'm on your side of this. You lean into your winners, and you've got winners all over the place right now, and that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I mean, really, the question is, I guess, if you're Danny White, is just how much money are you willing to throw into everything? I mean, because at this point, it turns out you have a Lady Vols coach who's a rabid recruiter. You have a baseball coach who's a rabid recruiter. Basketball coach is a rabid recruiter. Where is all of the money going? We kind of did a little calculation on our show in a segment a few weeks ago where we were like, is it $50 million where you're able to hit that? It's crazy what you're talking about at this point. And then Danny White today, I don't know if you saw, it's with Ross Dellinger at Yahoo. Where's Ross at? SI something. But Danny White coming out and talking about how he wants to see collective bargaining. He wants to see these players get paid as if they're employees. Essentially, go and read it. It's good stuff. Yeah, I mean, that's a huge discussion. We don't have to necessarily go there, but that's what you're talking about when you talk about it, everything schools, that kind of money.
Danny White's been banging that drum for a CBA for a while now. He's kind of been one of the most outward leading voices on that, which I appreciate from the standpoint of a Tennessee fan with this ridiculous, chaotic space that we're in college athletics. But like, I will not bemoan Tennessee fans for, for having that, coming from that place of would rather, pick up the ex receiver out of Louisiana than be able to bring in this transfer, even though it's never that clear cut, right? It's never like that transactional where they're literally taking money from football to put into baseball. But I understand where they're coming from. But when you've got a program as special as what Tennessee has right now with Tennessee baseball, you have no choice but to lean into it.
Yeah, you can't just ignore that. And I put it this way: Tony Vitello's not going to let you ignore it. So good luck. Because I think at this point, I mean, he's the type of guy, like, he's forged relationships with donors, and the man will find the money where he needs to find it. But as you've been mentioning there, football is coming into focus here. SEC Media Days coming up. I don't know if we even need, like, Josh Heupel makes a real effort to make his time at SEC Media Days as boring as possible. There's nothing. Who cares?
He's so good at it too. Like,
so good.
He is elite at being the most boring coach, at saying nothing over hours of speaking at Media Days, which will be really interesting this year with the Nico stuff. That's absolutely going to come back around, and the questions that he's going to see about that, and the players he brings at every turn.
Absolutely. I mean, it would be super compelling if he brought a Joey Aguilar. In no world is he going to do anything like that. But it would be compelling if he did. But speaking of Joey Aguilar, you posted a really interesting video this week, or just a few days ago, on the A to Z Sports Tennessee Volunteers YouTube channel, kind of saying this might be a gap year for Tennessee, so to speak, because of the goofy Nico situation and all the stuff that happened. Is this potentially shaping up to sort of be that Joe Milton year, where you go like, okay, we're loading up Faison Brandon on the horizon. Maybe that's what we're leading up to. I would say I'm holding out hope that maybe Aguilar's a dog and something can happen there. But I'll just let you kind of explain that out. What was that video about?
So I think Tennessee fans are going into this season, for the most part, kind of, I don't want to say bracing themselves a little bit, but doesn't it kind of feel like that? Like, going in like, all right, 8-4 is probably it's going to be in that range. And I kind of have to accept that. There's going to be the optimistic ones that are like carving out the path back to the playoff now. But last year, like, for me, I don't know about you, but for me, I had a very clear barometer where it was like, no, if you don't make the playoff, the season is a disappointment. Like, I was not even willing to debate about that. Like, you were hovering around the top 12 all 2023. Of course you have to make the 12-team playoff for it to be a successful season. And they did. I'm not going into it with that mindset this year, with the rug kind of being pulled out from them, so to speak, with the Nico stuff. This year reminds me of that 2023 season, where we went into that season with excitement about Joe Milton, hoping that the Orange Bowl would carry over. You knew the ceiling was high, but I don't think even the most optimistic Tennessee fan was talking about Tennessee as a title contender in 2023, right? You were going in and saying, oh, let's see what happens with Joe. But we all know that the real thing is coming down the pipe with Nico when he starts in 2024. Like, that's when this program is really, when we'll get to see Josh Heupel elevate to the level that, sustained the way we hoped we would after that incredible 2022 season. That's what this kind of feels like to me, except instead of Nico backing up your starting quarterback, it's a guy who's not on campus yet, and Faison Brandon, the 5-star who just turned a ton of heads at Elite 11. It's kind of similar vibes to me as 2023, where you're going in with this sort of understanding of this isn't the championship contending season, but this program is on stable enough footing, Charlie, where a bottoming out, like, what is a bottoming out in the Heupel era with this sort of talent profile that he's kind of established there, the culture, players loving to play for him, all of those things. To me, a bottoming out for Tennessee, maybe I'll put my foot in my mouth, feels like 7-5, right? Like, this feels like the type of program where that almost is the absolute floor. Hopefully the floor is really around 8-4 for Tennessee. So that's why it kind of reminds me of that 2023 season, which I viewed as a gap year between an 11-win season in 2022 and the playoff push that we saw last year in 2024. And history feels like it's kind of repeating itself in a way maybe Joey Aguilar will just rock our socks off this year. But what feels more likely is that it's more down the path of 2023 where you're competitive and you're hard to play against. You can run the ball and play defense like last year. And then 2026 and beyond is really where your ceiling gets so much higher because of the quarterback position.
My general feeling on Heupel as a whole, and I preface this every single time. I never say this to be negative, to try to cast aspersions on anybody. But 2022, you kind of saw the vision and you went, oh, maybe he is that national championship guy. Time has passed since then. And in particular, you've seen what happens in recruiting. And as of now, it feels like, as you're saying, I think the floor is probably 7-5, something like that. The ceiling is maybe 11 wins, couple wins in the playoff. But when it truly comes down to brass tacks, and we had this conversation after that Ohio State game, just eventually in the playoff right now with the talent profile that Tennessee is bringing in, you're going to hit that. You're going to hit Ohio State. You're going to hit Georgia. You're going to hit whoever it may be that's doing that elite recruiting, the kind of recruiting that Tony Vitello is doing right now, a number one recruiting class, all of the top elite transfers coming in. Josh Heupel's not doing that stuff. He's just not. And it was getting, I would say for me, it was getting pretty concerning until literally the last week, about his 2026 class was, at least according to 247, outside of the top 50. Then they get, I was just looking this up, it's Kedrick Golston, Edward Baker on the offensive line, Zay Anderson, and then the big one, Legend Bey, who I think is just an athlete, probably projects, I think I've seen receiver, but he played quarterback in high school.
Playing the Wildcat, it'll be fun to see what they try to do with him,
Super, super athletic kid. That's very encouraging, kind of launched Tennessee back into the top 25 recruiting-wise, but I got to see more of that elite recruiting before I just go, we're loading up for a national championship run. You're loading up for a playoff run right now. It feels like, again, I don't say this to be, I just try to say it to be realistic. That's sort of where it feels like Josh Heupel is at. I don't know if you agree.
No, you're absolutely right about that. I mean, we are in an era where I won't say recruiting matters less, but you get up less for recruiting than you ever did before, because even like we talk about Faison Brandon coming down the pipe, like the Nico thing, part of why it was so discouraging is like in the aftermath of that, I was just sitting there thinking about it. And it's like, you used to get so excited for signing day, right? In February, because it's like, this is your team. Like in 2 to 3 years, this is going to be your football team. If you're watching in 2006, in 2008, like this is going to be our team, the core of our team. Where now it's hard, man. It's hard to even get excited for a 5-star commitment, because it's like, awesome, we signed a 5-star. We also just signed a battle to keep a guy on campus for the next 3 to 4 years, right? And like, is he in the battle of having that discussion? Is he worth this? Is he worth that? The market is what the market is, even if he hasn't done anything on the field, right? Like if Mike Matthews had decided to go into the portal despite doing next to nothing last year, there would have been a market for him. And we would have had to sit here and talk about, okay, what is Mike Matthews worth paying more than we were before, even though he did nothing and proved nothing as a 5-star freshman? So it's hard on that end, but on the other end, you can't win championships without being at that level. So you have to be at that level. Georgia's at that level. Ohio State's at that level. The only even close to an exception would be Michigan, right? That at no point was recruiting in the top 3 year over year. And obviously they built up that national championship team, and there's a lot that went into that. But that's the exception, not the rule. If you want to contend for national titles, you have to be finishing in the top 3 in the country year over year. Tennessee's a top 10, top 15 caliber recruiting program right now. And that's great and all, but there will be a pivot point somewhere along the line for Vols fans to be like, okay, at what point is this not good enough, right? And I feel like Tennessee fans are like very wary. Like if you broach that right now, it's like, what are you talking about? Look what he's done for us. 2 10-win seasons in the last 3 years. And it's all true. It's all true. He's a fantastic head coach. I think he's an ascending head coach, and I would not even get close to that conversation right now. But it is kind of the elephant in the room with Tennessee football. You're right. Like, we can't talk about them as national championship contenders right now because they're not doing the things that national championship contenders do. We didn't see the gap once last year against Ohio State. We saw it twice with Georgia, a Georgia team that fell well short of a national championship, but still that talent profile in the trenches especially was so much higher than Tennessee's, and we saw that play out. Like Georgia still feels Tennessee proof in the Heupel era because of that difference in talent level. So it's a thing, right? It's just kind of sitting over here. Like it's a thing, and we're enjoying this right now, and we should. But you're right, man. Like I don't think that that's you being like a negative Vol fan or anything. Like it's absolutely something that we have to kind of take into account anytime we try to bring up Tennessee as a national title contender.
You just have to be realistic with it. And it was actually pretty funny. Yesterday, another person that works for A to Z in the same group text that I referenced earlier, he put, "Oh, I'm in Knoxville and I'm at the Vol shop. These are the player jerseys that are at the Vol shop." And it was Alvin Kamara, Peyton Manning, Josh Dobbs. No current players. Because what are you going to do? After this Nico fiasco, you're going to sell, like you're saying, a Mike Matthews jersey? Mike Matthews very well may not be playing here by the time the season starts. I think he's going to be actually playing in Tennessee, of course. But, it's like that tenuous with this situation now with guys here. I mean, you are just constantly re-recruiting. And unfortunately, football is not basketball and baseball where you can just have one massive transfer class and suddenly you have the depth and the power to win a national title. Like that's what Florida did. Florida did that in basketball. They just brought in, Clayton Jr. and flipped that entire thing over. Suddenly they had a freak year and they win a national title. Football's not like that. You have to build and build and build with these elite classes. And facts are just facts on the ground. Like Heupel just hasn't done that. He's not that used car salesman like Kirby Smart. He's kind of to what we were saying earlier. He likes to be more genuine, and how that comes to be is that all of his press conferences are super boring, and he doesn't play games like that. He doesn't do all that stuff, but he doesn't bring in these recruits like that. So I don't know where you take that. I mean, I think you're right. You're going to eventually hit a point where you go, 10 wins is incredible. Couple wins in the playoffs, incredible. But, I mean, are we winning titles? We're just not. And I hope he gets past it. But I don't know. Is it even worth talking about at this point, this type of stuff? So is it sort of like we should just put it off till that day comes?
I mean, I think it is. Look, there are coaches like Nick Saban and Kirby Smart that got to their respective programs. For Saban, obviously, after the LSU stint in the Dolphins at Alabama, year 2. I mean, his second recruiting class at Bama, number 1 class in the country, right? And that started that run. Kirby Smart, the second his feet landed in Athens, churning out number 1 classes. And then there's sort of the more slower burn guys where Dan Lanning, it's taken a couple of years before Oregon is consistently in that sort of top three. And then they quietly have one of the more talented rosters in the country. So no, I don't think it's ever like too late or not a good time to talk about that aspect, to like talk about those criticisms of a coaching staff. 2026 is going to be a fascinating litmus test because one thing that I remember because Nico and Arch Manning are in the same class, right? And when Arch commits to Texas, I mean, in his wake, right, just a bevy of blue chippers followed. Remember that being a thing with Tennessee. When Nico committed, there wasn't necessarily this tidal wave of guys that wanted to come play with Nico. And we had all sorts of, he's a California guy, doesn't have the relationships over here in the Southeast. He's not the most outgoing kid, yada, yada, yada. Okay, now let's see how that works with Faison Brandon, right? Does Tristan Keys want to come to Tennessee to play with Faison Brandon? Legend Bey does. Okay, that's good. Like you said, there's some momentum this past weekend, but and there's still a ton of time for the class of 2026. Like you said, Tennessee's sort of in that top 20, top 25 range at the moment. But the momentum is going to have to keep going up because this feels like a huge opportunity. Like you've got a gem 5-star number 1 overall caliber player in your recruiting class. If that doesn't lead to an elite class, then I don't know what will, man. Like I don't know what else can help spur that on. And so it's going to be really interesting. You can always supplement in the transfer portal. Of course you can. But, it's something where Tennessee has yet to have a talent profile that is even with the likes of Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, and isn't even really that close. You know what I mean? Like Tennessee is a top 15 program, what do we say, in the country right now?
Sure.
And that's awesome. Like, oh, it feels so good to be back in that place. But the gap between top 15 and top 5, top 3 is so much bigger than that gap between top 30 and top 15, right? Even top 40 and top 15.
Well, and I think what you got to hope for right now is just a special mix that you find where, and I think this is true. If you had the defense from last season, where the defensive line was just hellacious, they were so much better than we were even thinking, even though we knew they had talent. But Rodney Garner has just been a miracle worker there. And if you mixed that with the 2022 offense, which was the most prolific offense in America, you mix those two things, that's a national championship contender crazily without that insane talent. You still, in 2022, Georgia stopped that offense. You have to think about that, and again, be realistic with what happened there. But, you mix those two, you're probably at least a semifinalist in the playoffs, something like that. So the formula's there. Can you make it meet up in this window where you have Faison Brandon or whatever it may be? You got more talent than just him coming in too. It's out there. I just am still kind of waiting to see, like, can he really do it? Can all of these pieces land in place?
Well, 2022 is so interesting because like that offense, like you said, was this great equalizer, right? Like Tennessee was so much less talented and had so much less depth than some of the teams it beat that year. Alabama, obviously, at the top of that list. But that offense that nobody seemed to know how to defend other than Georgia was this equalizer. It like made up that gap in this incredible way. And so it was a really tantalizing thing. Like, okay, as the talent profile gets higher and higher, think about just as that gap closes in talent, just how much further it could take this program. Okay, but the offense hasn't carried over year in that way. And last year, I mean, there's all sorts of things. To me, it just feels like a confluence of all sorts of stuff, man. Like Nico was just straight up missing guys last year, right? Like we saw that all just dotted across. Like Nico Iamaleava simply was not good enough for a good 5 to 6 week stretch. Receiver play was not very good last year. Certainly wasn't good enough. And defenses are playing Tennessee differently. I think defenses are saying, you know what, that's fine. You run it on us until we get into the red zone. And then try to go over the top for a 60-yard touchdown when you're on the 17-yard line. You know what I mean? So that sort of evolution on how teams are playing Tennessee and the lack of high-end talent at those critical positions executing with the offense has kind of combined into Tennessee being a team that plays good defense and runs the ball. So it brings us back to, though, being really excited about the possibility of them rediscovering that form again offensively. And so that's what kind of sucks about 2025. It's like, okay, are they going to do it with the former App State quarterback? Right. Which is why it brings me back to that gap year mentality where it's like, just be that team that's just hard to play against, that is going to play for your coach. I do think this team is going to play like hell for Josh Heupel this year. The Nico thing might be the best thing that ever happened to the culture of that locker room, honestly, in the Heupel era, or at least it's up there. So they're going to be tough to play against, and maybe they surprise some and they end up with 9 to 10 wins. But in 2026, can this offense truly get back up there with that ceiling that we talk about with a high-level quarterback? That remains to be seen, and the recruiting has to come with that.
It really is insane how last year, unimaginably, in terms of how I felt when Josh Heupel showed up here, just his team turning into a hard-nosed defense, run it down your throat ball club. Like who would have ever seen that coming? And maybe that's just what you can do here with Joey Aguilar if the defense can be anywhere near that same level. I don't know. And I guess I'll make this the last question, last couple questions here. I mean, this season, how are you feeling at the moment? You kind of said maybe a gap year. Where are you lying? Is Aguilar going to be a miracle worker or somewhere in the middle?
Well, it's funny thinking about the opportunity he has to just be an absolute legend, right? To be the guy that came in after Nico wanted too much to be that next. I'm very wary to put him in that conversation of some of these Tennessee transfers over recent years, but
do it.
Some of the biggest supernovas in Tennessee's, recent football, basketball, Hendon Hooker, Dalton Connect were transfers, right? So it's just this huge opportunity that's sitting there for Joey Aguilar, but it's so unfair to put that on him, obviously. I'm going in with almost this relaxed, like last year was so pressure filled. I'm like, oh God, we have to make the playoff, right? Like if we don't make the playoff, it's going to be such, every game was so anxiety inducing because it just felt like make or break week over week. And this year it's weird because I'm kind of relaxed. It's like, we're probably going to be 8-4, but I feel good enough about the floor of this program to not worry about just an absolute disaster season. And so it's kind of this like little mystery box of a season that like, I feel okay, that I feel like if I open it, I genuinely feel like the worst thing I'll see is 8-4, maybe 7-5 if some really bad stuff happens. And like, I can live with that, knowing what could be coming down the pipe at the quarterback position in 2026. So it honestly just almost takes the pressure off in the weirdest way, where I have like less anxiety for the 2025 season than I did for the 2024 season, where it's like, no, they have to make the playoff. If they don't, the season's a failure.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to look at it. Kind of how I've been framing it is like 9 wins, I'm great. 10 wins, Heupel is a miracle worker with this crap that happened with Nico. 8 wins, passable. And we'll talk about next year. So yeah, it really is. It's kind of a nice position to be in. I was just thinking about quarterbacks. I do have to ask you this. You are, of course, the co-host of the Buck Rising show in Nashville. Buck, a guy who has some opinions that folks love to hate sometimes. What's the tenor on the show around the Titans quarterback? How are we feeling about that situation?
I mean, he's said all the right things. He's acting in all the right ways. You know what I mean? Like he just kind of has this vibe of a guy who's going to be successful, but he has to do it, obviously. So look, the vibe is excitement. I like Cam Ward. I like Cam Ward's just general disposition as a human, as an athlete that doesn't care about anything except just playing good football, which hasn't been the case in the past. I like Cam Ward's approach of just wanting to take the reins of this football team, which the Titans haven't had at the quarterback position in so long. Everything is positive right now, but with this sort of obvious asterisk of like, yeah, of course he has to show it to us. You know what I mean? So it would be idiotic. It would be dumb to be just blindly faithful that, oh, this obviously he's the guy, right? Like we saw him without some pads in mini camp. It's like, well, no, we're good. Like, yeah, it's all set. We're ready to roll here. Like, no, there's nothing about this franchise in recent years that gives you that confidence to say that. But on the other hand, like every time he speaks and you see him in practice and just the way he commands a huddle and conducts himself with teammates, it's like, oh man, I really feel like this guy might have it. But we're wary. We're wary to do that around here.
It is setting me up personally for failure, because so on the Will Levis stuff, I and most Tennessee fans were incredibly correct about Will Levis. Unfortunately, I would say unfortunately for the Titans franchise.
Yes, you're right.
We were our hatred for him landed in the correct place. But with Cam Ward, man, I'm all in. I like this guy a lot. I loved what he did he dragged Miami to every win that they had. The defense on that team was so horrifically bad, and he figured out a way to make them right on the edge of the playoff. And so I love the way that he looks out there too. Just like you said, the way he's commanding a huddle without ever, just showing up in the NFL a few weeks ago, and suddenly he almost looks like a veteran. I don't know. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I'm afraid to say I'm bought in.
You can. I mean, nobody's stopping you. Like it's intriguing, man. It's hard not to. Like, and I'm with you on the Levis stuff. Like in the end, he was who we thought he was. But I also kind of hate, because I am to a point where I genuinely just feel bad for the guy at this point. And like, it feels like all these discussions turn into just a bashing of Will Levis and talking about what Will Levis was not. But it's hard because it's such a dichotomy. Those guys are so polar opposite from one another, right? Like just in the way they carry themselves, just in the way that they talk, their maturity levels on and off the field, all of these things. So it's hard for it not to turn into that, as much as I don't want it to make it feel like it's this personal vendetta.
And the Levis stuff laid bare so much, kind of the divide that you've had in the state of Tennessee since 1997 when Peyton Manning went to Indianapolis. I've always said it was just never, in terms of fandom and Tennessee fans, it was never truly meant to be for the Titans, because they came in basically on the same day that Peyton Manning left the state for another NFL franchise.
In the same damn division.
Exactly. And so many people just went to cheer for him instead of the Titans. And I personally, in my most formative years, they made a Super Bowl, and I've loved the Titans since I was a child and all of this stuff. They caught some of us, but that Levis situation just really showed, like, every Tennessee fan was just like, guys, we watched this guy in college. He stinks. What are we doing? And it just really showed that whatever that is, kind of the clash between Titans and Tennessee fans.
Well, it was never because Will Levis went to Kentucky. It's because Will Levis went to Kentucky and he was terrible, especially in the times that we saw him play, right? Like, that's the thing that drives me insane, right? Where I'm trying to think of an example here in the last couple of seasons, right? Like, if Cam Ward transferred to Kentucky and not Miami out of Washington State and lifted Kentucky the way that he lifted Miami, then I would be all on board for Cam Ward. I wouldn't give a damn. Some of the best players in Titans history went to Javon Curse, went to Florida. Derrick Henry went to Alabama. Those players were good. They were elite. So nobody was bemoaning the fact that, this guy's going to suck because he went to X school. It was never because he went to Kentucky. It was always because of what he did on the field at Kentucky, especially in that last season at UK. So I'll get off my soapbox on that. It's not like we disagree on it anyway, but that is something I feel like we run into all the time. Like, guys, it was never about the jersey he was wearing. It's about what he did in the jersey. I want good players for the Titans. I don't give a damn where they come from. I am capable of separating those two things, right? College football and the NFL are different things. How idiotic would it be to have that mindset of, my NFL team won't draft any Kentucky players ever? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, good players sometimes come out of Kentucky, and that's okay.
And I truly, not to get into the minutia of the Tennessee-Kentucky relationship, but, like, I just don't care about Kentucky football that much. Like, it doesn't. Will Levis irked me because he had that weird, like, we play real football, all that crap that happened.
Right.
But outside of that, I mean, I just don't think about Kentucky football that much. We've lost to them 3 times in my entire lifetime.
Yeah.
It's like how I'm concerned with Vanderbilt. I mean, it is what it is. Like, I hate Alabama football, and I love Derrick Henry. So yes, that was always stupid. You're preaching to the choir there for sure.
I know.
But I'll just leave it here. Plug anything, everything. Appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, man. No, appreciate you. We're on 10 to 1, 104.5 The Zone. Me, Buck, Robert Walsh, just doing dumb stuff on the radio 3 hours a day. And, we're kind of closing in here on training camp, on SEC media days, all the things that feel like turning points, the touch points along the way of a week 1 kickoff. And it'll be here soon. So we'll be talking about it on the airwaves, 10 to 1 Central.
Yeah, go check them out. Great stuff. Charlie Burris, Lucas Panzica, Zach will be back next week for the A to Z Sports Big Orange podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll say that for myself and for Lucas, to the A to Z Sports Tennessee Volunteers YouTube channel, where you would, in order to see that, you'd have to be watching that channel currently. So do that. And that is it. Thanks so much. We will talk to y'all next week.